Hello and welcome. My name is Colonel Kurtz, member of the Odin's Call Alliance, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about Abyssal Modules and how to actually find them and use them. There's quite a number of videos out there on making Abyssal Modules, and big shout out to my good friend Redfall and his YouTube channel StrangeNet, and he's done a really good video about how to use Abyssal Modules to roll modules. But most of these guides centre around rolling those modules for your benefit, but effectively you're gambling. You're trying to turn a module into something useful, and for most people that's not great. And the way that I use Abyssal Modules, I might want a longer point range. I might want to fit something. I can't quite fit it, so I might buy an Abyssal module. And trying to roll a module to do that, it's just a huge waste of money, because chances are you're not going to get the one you exactly need. So purchasing them from somebody else, of course, is the best way to do that. But how do we find them? I've spoken to a few of my courtmates recently, and they didn't really know how to do that, and they were manually searching through contracts, and it really hurt my brain to think that they were trying to find those modules manually through the contracts. So I introduced them to this website, UMLSDospace, if you haven't heard of it. Redfall mentions it in his video, as do a number of other websites. And this website effectively scans the contracts in game for Abyssal modules, and it loads up their stats. And as you can see, you've got a choice of all the different potential modules that can be modified using mutaplasmids. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how you can find modules that you want or need and how to fit them into your ship. So today we'll be using a Malediction as a bit of an example. So I've got my Malediction here, and I want a better warp disruptor for this. It doesn't quite meet my needs. My lock range is 46.1 kilometers with this ship. Without any links, I'm only getting 37.5, and you know what? I fancy a little bit more. And the benefit of using Abyssal modules is you can often get better for performance for a similar price to a faction module that you've already got. So this Republic Fleet Warp Disruptor is about 141 million according to Pyer. So I think I'd be happy to spend about 200. So I come back to Mutaplasmid, and the first thing, this is a top tip, please make sure you sign in with your Jitter account. The account you want to buy the items from contracts with, make sure you sign in, because once you've found a module and you want to purchase it, if you then try to log in, it will just reset and take you back to where you started, and you have to put in all the parameters all over again. So make sure you log in. So I've got my Jitter alt logged in up there. He's sat in Jitter ready to go. But you can shop from anywhere because you're purchasing contracts. You can virtually get them. You can view them at least from anywhere. So we want a warp disruptor today. So we head down here to the warp disruptors. Just click on warp disruptors, and it'll bring up this window, and it'll start to load all of the contracts. So here you've got all of the available contracts. And my first piece of advice would be to turn off the contracts requiring Plex, unless you really want to pay with Plex, which I've never done. I would do the same for multi-item contracts, because I mean at this point you want one item, right? We're not really interested in whatever other crap somebody's trying to sell to us, so we can also untick that one. And also the auctions one, again, unless you're really patient, which I'm certainly not. I'm not interested in auctions, so I turn those off. Now we come to the sliders, which is the most important part. So I said to you a minute ago that I want point range, which is the optimal range one here, and I've got 200 mil to spend. And the other two at this point in time, I'm not worried about. We'll work on those in a minute. So my budget is 200 mil. So this is in millions. By default, it's just set to all prices, but you can use these columns here and sort by price. So if you want to sort by the most expensive one, being 11 billion ISK, then you can do. Or you can do a more sensible move and type in the amount you want. So you can either do it by the slider, which is what I will just do roughly here. I've set it to 203 million, that's absolutely fine. And as you can see, it's already sorted by price, by 200 million. But that's great, but it's only showing me by price. It's not actually put these in order of the optimal range, which is this column here. So if I now sort by this column here, you will see that I can now purchase, if I so wish, a warp disruptor with a range of 32.4 kilometers. Bear in mind that my Malediction is gives a bonus to the warp disruptor. So if you right click and go to module stats under the attributes, you can see what the base stats are. So that's the stats of the module without any bonuses from the ship that you're flying. So normally this module will have a base of 30 kilometers. So this one here has got an extra just nearly 2.5 kilometers of range, which with the bonus from my ship will be quite hefty. So you're probably thinking, okay, so what does that look like on your ship? What does 32.4 kilometers look like on your ship? Well, I'm glad you ask. Over here we've got a button that says Pyer. If you just left click this button, what that's now done is it's copied the stats of this module into your clipboard. So I head over to Pyer now, and I can remove my Republic Fleet Warp Disruptor. Just simply press Control V, or I think you can right click and paste if you do it right, but Control V is the easiest, and what do you know, there is my Abyssal Warp Disruptor. It has populated all the stats for it, all the fittings and the range. So you can see actually this would provide me a 40.5 kilometers point range. Fantastic, that's exactly what I want. I want a little bit more for only a little bit more risk. So perfect, that's worked out great. I mean, you can go absolutely mad with this. If you set it to the full amount, you can get points that are 5,000 meters greater than the base module of a faction module. But the most important thing to note is you can press on these to find out more information, and we'll have a look at that next. So if I roughly try and find that module I just had, which was just over 200 million, and sort by the range again, I think it's this one here. This is the one we've copied in. If you right-click on the actual module itself, you can open in a new tab. It can actually look at that particular module and find out some more information about it. So this module was created by this chap here tonight. Thank you very much tonight. You are our guest speaker today. And this was produced using a Republic Fleet Warp Disruptor, and it was using that mutaplasmid. And then down here you can see how that compares to other modules. So you might actually find Abyssal module is not as good as a faction module that's out there, and this will let you know. And lastly, down here you can see the price history and where this has been. So actually this was listed for 230 mil, and it looks like it didn't sell, and they've reduced the price to 200, so we've got that. So I didn't mean to press that. So if we go back to this list here, so now you're thinking, great, you found the module, Kurtz. How on earth do I buy this flipping thing? This is the whole point of the video, and this is where this ESI button here comes into play. So we logged in earlier. If we press ESI and then we head over to Eve, you will find that that particular contract for that particular module has already opened up for you. Fantastic news. You haven't got to find it. You haven't got to work out where it is. All you've got to do is press accept if you're happy with it. Just double check where it is before you do accept it, just so you don't get caught out. I've never been scammed or anything like that through this system, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody out there trying that one. So if I wanted that module, I'd go ahead and purchase that one. But for those eagle-eyed viewers out there, you will have noticed that using this particular warp disruptor would actually put me 4.31 CPU over my limit on my ship. Now, I could, of course, use a fitting implant, but that's not the point of this video. We're talking about Abyssal modules. So how can I use an Abyssal module to solve my fitting issues? And this is probably the area that I use the most. It allows you to create fits that don't fit, and then you can use an Abyssal module to kind of cheat a little bit for not very much ISK. So the thing to do at this point is to look at probably which of these modules on my ship that you can use an Abyssal module for. So for example, you can't get Abyssal rocket launchers, so we'll have to cancel those out, and I'm already using the lowest fitting requirement rocket launchers, so, and the same with the interdiction nullifier. So that brings us down to some of these modules down here. So you can get Abyssal ancillary, but we're short on CPU, and this is only using 5 CPU already, so chances are we're not going to be able to save very much. But then just below that, oh look, we've got a damage control that's using a lot of CPU, 30 in fact. And it's not the most important module on my ship, so it doesn't matter if I use an Abyssal module that's going to lose a little bit of stats, because mostly this is providing me with hull resistances, which is not massively useful for my Malediction, so I'm happy to make some concessions there. So what I would suggest you do at this point is to remove the damage control. It's the easiest way of doing it. So this now tells me exactly, if I hover over the fitting information, it tells me exactly how much fitting room I've got. We're not worried about power grid because it only uses 1 for a damage control, so that's fine. But we've got 25.69 CPU remaining, so that's the space we've got, 25.69. Remember that number, viewers. So if you head back to this website, head down to damage control. We want a standard one, not an assault one. And then we head to the CPU. So how much did we have? 25.69. We move our slider here to 25.69. 25.6, fantastic. So it will now only show me the modules that are 25.6 CPU at the most. Again, I've turned off these boxes here, personal preference if you want those or not, I don't recommend it. And to be honest, I'm not really that bothered on some of these other stats. The thing that I'm worried most about here is price. So I think I'm going to go ahead and sort by price. So looks like the cheapest one they've got that meets my requirements at that CPU amount is about 140 million ISK, which is, it's quite expensive, but in comparison to a faction module, it's not all that expensive. We're going to lose a little bit of thermal resistances, but actually, broadly, we're going to gain quite a bit across the other ones, so that's fine with me. So again, I head to the Pyer button, so it's now moved into my clipboard. I head back into Pyer, and I can paste that in using Control V. And what do you know? We've actually now got 5.33 CPU extra for 140 mil. And at this point, I could now go on and start messing around with some of the other modules that I want to upgrade. Maybe I want some TT rocket launchers, or change the compact interdiction nullifier to a better one, or whatever it is you want to do. But either way, we've managed to overcome a fitting issue. And I know this is probably not the best example because we've put some fairly expensive, I mean, not really if you like to fly expensive maledictions like I do, we've managed to put a couple of fairly expensive modules on a fairly cheap ship. But we've managed to get a much better point range, and then we've managed to overcome our fitting issues. If we weren't fitting the Abyssal point and it just didn't fit, and I was getting frustrated, I just couldn't work it out, or I was going to have to make some serious sacrifices to fit whatever module I want to fit, instead of just paying a little bit extra money to get an Abyssal module. Can be really useful, and you've got a huge range of modules to choose from. I often use the warp disruptors and the warp scramblers. For me, they're the best ones, and I actually make a little bit of money by rolling those, because there's only one stat really on there that proves whether it's a good item or not, and that's the point range. So they're fairly easy to roll because there's not much that can go wrong with them. And then after that, I use a fair few micro warp drives and things like that, mostly because micro warp drives use a lot of fitting, which means that the mutaplasm is reduced by a percentage. So the amount of saving that you can get by rolling them is fairly high, which allows you to sort of fit them into a fairly awkward fitting. So that's that. So that's how to use the mutaplasmid site, and I'd highly recommend having a go at it. If you're having issues with fitting a ship, or you want to get a bit of extra stats, but you just don't know how to find those modules on contracts, follow this guide. The sliders are your friend. And just a little pointer, the red one is obviously the upper bound. So if CPU, I move this slider to move the red number down, that will mean that at most it's going to have use 25 CPU. And conversely, if for whatever reason you want it to use more CPU, you can move this one, and the minimum will go up. And lastly, just make sure you use these columns to sort by them, and you can do that. And sort of last one really is you can use the similar tab. If I press similar on this module, for example, it will bring up other modules with very similar stats to that one that you found, but you might then be able to sort by price. And actually, it's found one here that's only 25 million ISK, although it's part of an auction. That's what the A means. If I turn my auctions off, it'll get rid of it. There you go, 460 mil instead of the however many billion that one that I clicked on was. And you can see it's automatically set the stats for you. And you can also use that similar module from, if you click on your modules here, I don't think this will work for me because I don't think I've got any. I've got a few modules here. You can click on similar for these, and it will show you modules that are similar to a particular one that you own, and potentially how much that is worth. So lots of useful tools. This website is fantastic if you haven't used it, and I can't survive without it when I'm purchasing Abyssal modules, so definitely give it a go. I hope you found this video useful. If you haven't already, make sure you jump over to StrangeNet the in-game channel. It's a YouTube channel run by a chap called Redfall. I'm looking forward to my commission, Mr. Redfall. Thank you very much. And he's got some really good guides on making money in EVE, making money with Abyssals, rolling Abyssal modules, how you can make them. And then once you've learned out how you can make them, come back here and learn how you can buy some of mine to use on your ships. Thank you for your time, and I will see you soon. Fly safe. See you soon. Fly safe. See you